continue. So that responsibility had to be allocated to other areas. Is that accurate?
Well,
He's still doing it now.
yeah, I mean, he's still doing it now, but...
I'm talking about in the budget.
Yeah, I think that's going to have to be a staffing, an answer from staff as to how, from an operational standpoint, they were going to cover those duties. But my understanding from some of the meetings is each of the managers would do a little bit, some of the administrative staff within the managers would do a little bit. It would just be parsed out instead of being centralized. Good or bad?
That was the intention, was
That
for
was the
each
intention.
department to pick up their own procurement
Yes.
and logistics.
And there was a young man,
Yes.
Justin, I believe his name is, with him over at work. He was hired part-time to be trained to,
He was
Take part.
hired full-time, and he worked part-time in one area and part-time in another area.
Right.
And part of it was the training for that job, yes. But not the procurement side,
No, just
it was just the inventory side.
Inventory control.
Right. So he was hired for the inventory control side and for the meter reading when it was that time of the month, when he'd go read the meters. And the other time of the month, he would do the inventory control. And he is on staff, and he has been trained by Mr. Wallace to do the inventory portion. What we had left was the fire inspections and the procurement, as well as any logistics that went with that. And that's where we kind of stand now. Chief Stiegel, am I seeing you moving around back there?
Yeah, I was just trying to locate some funding here of what we were talking about. You know, I didn't know, are we going to just at a general, are we going to refill a deputy city manager horse position?
If you're asking me, I can't see us doing that.
No, I can't.
Okay, do we know how much, I know it was like an addition, you know, to
Right.
the HR position.
It was 5%.
So a 5% raise, so would that be, I'm just looking for money, that's all.
So, and I'm
So
gonna speak-
5% of her hourly rate.
I'm gonna speak for us in the department head meeting we had the other day. There's several things we looked at one, Lamar's correct in the sense of the 5%, that if those positions obviously won't be combined any longer. The big spot that was left out and what Danny did is the research for the GSA site and things he finds for us like that wire. That's just gonna go away if Danny goes away. The other thing is that we felt that based on the current positions that were not currently filled, and we talked to Stephen about this, that over the next year, we would be able to fund Danny's position out of those vacant positions, as Mr. Bloom talked about, 25%.
Right.
So we felt there would be plenty of money to do that over the next year, and then at next year's budget, restaff that position and have a little more time to think about where it needs to go and who's going to get it.
Okay. I did also speak with Public Works today, and they have an office location in mind themselves as well, and know that they can use him. The wire is a perfect example for procurement of things that they need that they're having trouble getting a hold of.
One example, Council President, is Stephen mentioned is in the revenue side. So, for example, Danny found wire, and he was able to acquire much more than what we need. But because of the supply and demand issues, we know as a minimum that we're going to get some resale of over $30,000 on that, and that's the lowest conservative end. So there are other hidden avenues as we procure where it's almost like a self-funding position. And so that was the other thing that staff talked about. Besides just the open positions, the procurement side of things, if we procure a little bit beyond what we need, he can generate the revenue for his own, his own position.
Yeah, just like we were borrowing things from other cities, we could be the one they were borrowing it from if we had a stockpile of those things. And as I said, could fund his own position. And they have an office space that they have in mind in the Public Works area.
okay, so I have a question.
Yes, sir.
If we've hired the young man to do the inventory side, that was something that, Dan, you did both inventory and purchasing?
It was all together.
Okay, so basically, we've got a part-timer
He's still doing meter reading.
He's still gonna do it?
Yeah.
Okay.
He's still doing inventory.
So will he still be doing full-time? Where's Danny gonna be doing?
We think that if he does the logistics and he does, because the logistics is not just procurement, there are other things that are logistics, like going to get it and bringing it back and, going to procure, when you buy something, you have to go procure it. You have to go
Right.
get it.
Councilmember Cox, one thing is the auditors have recommended for many years that we separate inventory from purchasing and procurement.
Okay.
Because inventory is a full-time job.
Yep.
And we have missed our inspections because he just does not have the time to do all of that stuff. And so the point is to move the person who's doing it part-time, who's being trained, to full-time. Then there'll be another part-time helper for him because we'll have to replace the meter reader. And then let Danny focus on procurement. If he had the time to do that, as we're talking about, between the open positions that are not ever constantly filled and the money that could be generated from Danny really getting to focus on that, you're going to generate the revenue that's needed for that position.
Just asking.
Yes, sir.
I think the one thing too, a lot of people don't realize is the equipment stuff that Danny gets. And Danny, what is the percentage on the dollar?
Anywhere from 0.5% to 2.5%.
Yeah, we were looking at $1,000 worth of inventory today, multiple things we could get, and I think we looked at the final price if we wanted them was like $5.23.
Yeah.
And so that's where you make the money.
Your food.
Yeah.
Come back with $50 worth of food and it fills up a whole truck.
trailer.
The way to do it.
And that part was the part that was going away.
Okay, so as I said at the very beginning, I keep finding things I want to put back. I'm not having very good luck taking things out. So we have to figure out how to do that, and where to get the funds to do that. Everybody agree with that?
Yes, absolutely.
Mr. Witt?
The deputy city manager, is that position out?
Not for discussion at the moment. Talk to me next Tuesday. Okay. It's still in our budget, to answer your question.
So next Tuesday would be the decision-making time, and you take it out or not?
Possibly.
Discuss it after next Tuesday.
Okay, I got it.
Okay, so,
Takes me a while to catch on, you know.
any ideas, Mr. Bloom? Can you fix that? Can you fix that? Can you fix that for us?
I think it's going to depend upon what other items you have on your list.
I know it is.
If it's, just this, I think from, additional revenue, open positions, they've already kind of answered your question.
Right.
It really then becomes, what else?
Okay.
So I think this is, an easy one.
So other than Danny, what else do we want to say or?
Right, what else do you need to add or have concerns about that just track or indicate?
All right, and looking at the staffing, is there anything else that anybody else wants to talk about?
Just one question,
Yes, sir.
because I don't remember it being asked last year. Just kind of knew this was the first budget. But looking at the staffing for police and fire, like Brooke, it comes out of police, and the dispatchers all comes out of police. Why isn't that split between the two departments, the wages?
Communications is its own budget.
I started to say it used to be.
Yeah.
split.
Communications is
It's
its own
just
budget.
showing on this page as one.
Yes, it's just this page. There are separate departments where
Yeah.
they get split. And I can
Once we
show
get
this
over
one, too.
here, it's just the staffing page that shows them all together. But once we get into the general fund budget with police, it'll show it separately.
Okay.
All right. Anything else? Anything, let's do them one time. Anything on city council? Anything on city administration? Anything on the community development, which again is the planning, animal control, and the animal shelter? Anything on customer service, billing, and accounts payable? As you know, we have new things and a couple of new people in some of those positions. But I think we've all talked about it enough that we're okay with it being there. All right, anything on police? I know police took a hit.
We just need, Stephen, in the police budget, there was a $1,500 incentive pay for our detective that we had in our current budget, but I don't see it in here.
For which position?
The detective, compulsory, or compulsory.
Is that like a clothing allowance or something?
It's a specialty pay for the detective.
Yeah, it's in there, the column is just hidden.
Oh, okay,
Yeah,
okay.
I only show total wages, but if you did the math on it, it's annual wages plus $1,500, actually plus the safety bonus, plus incentive pay.
Okay.
All of that's what equals
Yeah,
that.
when we get to the back, part, it'll probably show it.
Yeah.
Stephen.
Well, there's a couple of things Brooke's gonna send you that, just,
Minor stuff.
Okay,
Minor
so
stuff.
when we get to
Yep,
the
not a
police,
problem.
when we get to the
Yep.
police part, we can do that.
okay.
All right. And you see we've got the reserves, which is something we were trying to accomplish because we have reserves now that are not being paid. Be a whole lot easier to get them. If
Oh,
we
yes.
give them, it's essentially pays their gas to get here and home again.
Yeah. I'll give you an example of that, with us being down 4 people now with, for different reasons. Our reserves are stepping in and covering those shifts, which is saving us money.
Absolutely.
So,
Better than overtime any day.
yes.
Okay, we're to fire now. Anything in the fire budget?
We have an assistant chief.
We do.
Where is he listed on staff?
He's probably under the officer, fire officer. If I had to make a guess, he'll show in the back individually. And we'll talk about him again when we get there, but we do, it's Jimmy Willis.
When you get
Yeah, I know who he
break
is.
down of the,
What, is he on fire or police?
Fire. He's on
Oh,
fire.
okay, fire.
You're done.
did you want
Thank
to
you.
Fire now.
Yeah.
No, we don't want to.
You were talking about
Okay.
fire. You were talking about deputy chief for fire, weren't you, Mr. Cox?
Yes,
Or
you
did
said
I
fire.
get-
You said fire, so that's why.
Is that what, yeah, I am in fire, but that's what you're talking about, right?
Correct.
I'm making sure I didn't jump departments on you.
No,
Okay,
3 said we were at.
yes, exactly. All right, so anything in utility administration that you're looking at here? I can tell you, I see 2 people who don't have a raise.
Yep.
Like I said, I keep wanting to add things instead of take things away.
On the utility service, for the sewer. Wastewater plant lead operator got a $1 increase. Wastewater operator 2 got a 50-cent.
And some of them got 50 cents and some of them got $1. There was a rationale in their
So,
meeting
Mr.
about
Cox,
that.
what we did was, is any employee that's been less than 6 months, when they came in, they of course got an adjusted pay. So we didn't want to give them a full $1 because they haven't put in the time that some of the long-term employees had.
Okay.
So it was a way of saving money, and as I said, we already tried to make an adjustment based on experience when they came in and they were happy with the wage. So we thought it was best to give them a smaller raise than those who are established employees who've been faithfully here for a while.
I'm good with that.
I
Didn't
love
know that
it.
he was new.
Yes, sir.
We should probably, for next year, if we can, put an asterisk
Sure.
by these people so we know that they're new. You know,
That's a great idea.
And that's something they just did in this round of workshops that they did
Well,
themselves.
would you like a higher date on some of those in the future?
No, I just think, if it's just an asterisk, just, that way they will know that they're new. That's all.
Yes, sir.
Okay, back to those 2 people who don't have a raise in public administration. Are we leaving it that way?
I hate it.
I hate it too. They're bringing in most of the money. I mean, the 2 people under them got $1. They didn't get anything. And $1's minimal. I mean, that's just peanuts. Mr. Bloom's shaking his head at me, so that's a good thing.
We'll do that.
All right.
I'll put a dollar in for both.
I know they deserve more than that, but gotta do something.
Council
If not, that compression starts moving around, and the bottom end comes to the top. Don't you even talk to me about it.
We had other departments that took their raises out. So you're gonna have the same problem across the board. There were people who made some serious cuts.
No. Go ahead.
But they didn't leave them at zero.
Go ahead, Mr. Jones.
They may have cut $1 or $2, but they didn't leave it zero.
You got more people
Yeah, go
on
ahead.
this end of it than you are, buddy. You're good.
Yeah, I'm hearing them say, it's okay, we know that you're trying to give to this end this time,
Yes.
but we can't let you go. 'Cause like I said, it becomes a compression issue if we don't at least bump it a little bit. And Mr. Bloom shook his head up and down instead of side to side, so we're okay. All right, in the electric department, we also have someone there that we depend on every single day and night, who has no increase.
I saw him shake his head.
I know they're all shaking their head. They're all shaking their head, that's why it's not here.
I was looking at Mr. Bloom.
Yeah.
Oh, he's shaking his head up and down?
Yeah.
All right, so put it there. All right, and as you look, everybody else has got a little something. We moved to gas, and we moved to water. We moved to sewer. And we moved to public works and streets and parks. Okay, Mr. Lord's sitting there too with nothing. Did we find another dollar for him? That's everybody else in there. So what happened is our public works department supervisors did not give themselves a raise in their own budget. That is very commendable. But we depend on them every day, and I don't think they deserve nothing. So,
I agree.
all right. And now we're to the airport.
Oh, forget it.
And as we've talked before, the airport is independent of its own budget. So saving money there doesn't help anybody else. So unless you just believe that they're being overpaid, we can leave it like it is.
Well, $6 increase is quite a bit.
It is quite a bit.
You know, when the state is only doing 5% increases, I mean, I don't know, that's just a lot.
Mr. Stiegel.
It is a lot. Mr. Steve.
Radio check. So, while yes, it does appear to be a lot on at a single point in time, I did a comparison with a lot of municipalities in the area and a lot of other airports in the area. Realistically, and I'm not being facetious here, my comparisons and everything found that the average base rate for an airport manager in North Central Florida is starting at $100,000.
Just curious,
Sure. Yeah, no, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
what's their general funds like compared to ours?
Their general funds?
Mm-hmm.
You mean like the city proper's general fund?
Yep. Their tax bases, you know, things like that.
That's not,
That's not what funds
yeah,
the airport.
it's not
so-
really what funds the airport, it's not really relevant information.
Right, it's not.
Looking,
It's more like, it's more like what do they have, what do those people have
right.
in comparison to what you have?
So the closest comparisons that we have for Williston are Palatka and Ocala. And I know Ocala is an international airport, quote unquote, but that's kind of something that Matt really wants over there, the airport manager, I'm sorry, over in Ocala really wants that international title, so he occasionally brings customs in, has customs flights come in just so they can have that branding of international. We are realistically one charter service away from being the same size as Ocala, fuel sales wise. And I get nasty grams from Matt all the time that we are, beating him in the floor with fuel sales. They do sell more in fuel on volume on the jet side, but a lot of their customer base comes to us, and if we had just one more base customer that, added, anything close to what they had, if it added 50,000 gallons of jet, we'd be right up there with them. And Palatka is, they're in a little bit of a change right now, but as far as size goes, in FDOT District 2, Palatka is about as close as we can get to our actual airport, and they do nothing compared to what we do, fuel sales wise, revenue wise, or anything. They're nowhere close.
I myself have a trouble with the range, the fact that it's such a large jump. And I will just say that out loud. I probably feel a whole lot better if it was something like 32 instead of 35, which is still a lot of money. When you see the comparison, I mean, I know what we pay. I know what we pay our police chief, I know what we pay our fire chief, I know what we pay our city manager, whoever that's going to be. And I'm just trying to make sure the city manager, that you're not making more than the city manager's about what it amounts to. I know that's a terrible thing to say out loud.
No, I understand completely. But what I will say is, one, city manager's not paying their own salary. And I know that's bold to say, but I've also not taken a raise, since I've been here, with the exception of the mandatory raise that council made me take when I took on the airport manager role, which was only a 1.3% raise, if I remember correctly. So I took on an exorbitant amount of responsibility with a minimal raise on the premise of let me work for you for a couple of years, proof of concept. Now we have proof of concept a couple of years later, and I'm still not even asking for, the general average in aviation for an airport manager. Realistically, I'm not going to ask for.
We'll discuss that later.
Okay.
You and I we'll debate
sure.
that later.
And I'm realistically not going to ask for anything more anytime in the near future. I love the city of Williston. I love the airport, and I'm not greedy. This will sustain everything that I need and then some. Allow me to give more to the community, if anything. But I'm at the council's will. So totally up to you guys.
It is, and I'm just one person. I would feel more comfortable with a $3 to $4 an hour increase than a $6 an hour increase. But like I said, I'm just one person.
Because generally, a lot of times when companies give raises, it's 1%, 2%, 3%. Generally, is when that's what it is. To me, that's just a big jump. We just had a meeting a while back to discuss utility rates, and we had citizens that were like, we don't want a higher rate. If somebody asked me, how could you give somebody a $6 raise?
This has nothing to do with utility rates.
But I would say that the airport is independent and generates their own.
I'm just saying that these are.
And I am aware of that.
Our citizens
Don't think it's a lot of money.
who were asking about that. I realize it doesn't have anything to do with utilities. It was just an example of, they came here, they said that they didn't want the higher rates and things like that. But if they ask me, how can I give somebody a $6 raise? I'm gonna have to explain it. And it might not be an answer they want.
In
So-
what way, Mr. Cox?
It's just a, would have to explain to them why we approved giving you a $6 raise. When some of them were in fixed income and things like that. That's all, I'm just using that as an example. But, you know, I still have a problem with the $6 raise.
I don't know many people that get a $6 raise. Anybody else have comment on that, or are we moving on subject? Does anybody up here have any comment? Then we'll move to the other part. I know you're still supporting your fellow staff, but you're gonna hear in a minute. Anybody up here, we just sit where we are. Okay, Mr. Bartlett.
I also want to point out that it's not really a $6 raise if you talk about 3 years of no raise. And y'all at last budget hearing said that $2 an hour was not an unreasonable ask. If you're talking about 3 years and you're talking about $2 per year, that's a $6 raise. And he forewent the expense, so you guys could technically look at that as saving last year $4 an hour and the year before $2 an hour. So there's savings there.
I'm looking at the $70,000 price tag.
What I'm thinking is it's a sustainable part of the city. They're on their own. He has not taken a raise in 3 years. Has it been
Well,
3
I think
years?
he got the small one about a year ago,
Well,
year and a half maybe.
About a year and a half,
Yeah.
When he took on.
Right.
But that's it. I have no problem with it.
Mr. Barber, did you add what you've already said what you wanted to say? Anybody else?
I personally don't have a problem with it if it's turned down his raise for 3 years as well.
Exactly.
Kind of like it's 1 year covering 3.
Okay, move it to property taxes. I think that that's been explained already. Unless somebody has additional questions on the property tax, we'll move to the budget by fund, which is the general fund. Okay, 18, sorry. And the first 2 pages show the revenues, which we've pretty much gone over. As Mr. Bloom said, it comes in from some source, and it goes out in another one. You'll see everything from the fire department coming from Levy County to the crossing guard coming from the school department. Ms. Jones?
Do you want me to just explain that 89?
Yes, thank you.
100%. So the building permit admin fee, we have not been charging it, even though that is part of a resolution.
All right, start over again, I'm sorry.
Okay, so go to the building permit.
The 8,900.
Oh, 89,
Yeah.
The building permit. Nope. Admin fee.
It's on. It's on.
So it went from $60 to $100 to now it's $9,000.
We actually weren't charging it, and it is part of our resolution, our fee schedule. And the auditors have pretty much demanded that we start charging that. It wasn't a request, it was part of the auditor saying that we need to do that. So it's a $30 admin fee on each permit.
Okay, so
That's
when
what
you
I-
sell a permit, you're gonna add $30, is that what you're saying? To every permit that you sell?
Right,
And who said you have to do that?
the auditors,
Why?
because it's part of our fee schedule.
You mean it's written into a policy, is that what you're saying?
Yes, ma'am, and we never charged.
Okay, all right.
If it's part of our fee schedule, it's
If
probably
it's in the,
ordinance.
if it's in the ordinance, in the policy,
Correct.
Yes, ma'am.
yeah, and we haven't been doing it. I can see if they would want us to do it. Either that or take it out, one or the other. Either one works. If you don't like the rule, take it out.
I wasn't gonna bring fee schedule changes this year for permitting, so.
Okay? So the $105 permit is now $135
Yes, ma'am.
as of October 1st.
Still the lowest permits in the area, so no problems. Very low compared to everybody else. No worries.
Okay. Says the guy who has to get the permit. Better get my permit quick, haven't I? The one I need for the one I need for the thrift store at the church. I better get it quick. Before October.
Insider information.
Oh, yeah. Before October 1st, I'm gonna get me a permit. That's all right. They already gave me the permit application. I'll just go ahead and do it quick.
I mean, I think if you're doing a $250,000 house, a $30 permit fee is not gonna
I
make
know,
or break
I'm
it.
trying to put a 6x6 shed behind
Oh,
something.
yes,
They're
ma'am.
charging me $105
Come and see me
for a
before
permit.
October 1st.
Now it's $135. That's like a 30% increase. Okay. The next thing you see is well, we talked about the revenues. If you turn the page, you start to see by category the different expenditures. The first one is city council. You see the individual mayor, city council members, and the president listed separately there. I didn't know you had workman's comp on us. That's an interesting theory.
You do?
That's right there they do.
In your mayor's meetings.
Oh.
Just have to make sure.
Because I got an ambulance bill.
Yes, you do. Okay, and you see the other things at the bottom that go with that, at the bottom of that page, all the professional services. You see the travel per diem has been increased a little bit. City manager is the next one. You see the salaries are allocated. There's a car allowance and a safety bonus as well that everybody has. Life insurance, retirement, et cetera, et cetera. Okay, if you turn the page, you're to the city clerk. This is all within her own department. And as you heard earlier, according to the contract for the attorneys, the legal expenses did go up by 3%, which is what their contract said. So we made sure that Mr. Bloom knew about that so he could add that. All right, so what is this? Administration. And so administration is that category that's got all these people. This people we just talked about?
Yeah, I mean, they're all within the staffing plan.
Okay. And you see them individually where it says salaries and wages. You see it's 80% of the administrative assistant, 5% of the accounts manager, 20% of the accounts payable specialist, and then the safety bonuses. Anybody has any question, let me know. Turn the pages. On page 24, we have the HR director, which is 100% in that category, not divided amongst the others. We've removed the software that was there, right? That's part of the savings that came. So you have purchasing department. There's part of the salary right there. Turning the page again. I'm not hearing anything from anybody. Planning and zoning, which you see 50% of the city planner, 60% of the planning and zoning administrator, and safety bonuses. And then the building permit section, who is the building permit tech. %100% of that department. You change to the next page, which is page 28. You see animal control, code enforcement, which is 70% in this department. So somebody tell me where the other 30% is.
Animal shelter.
It moved to the new animal shelter. We'll see that in a minute then. Okay. right, and yes, if you turn to the next page, you see the other 30% of the animal control, you see the new kennel tech and the new animal shelter attendant. One of those we had already, right?
The,
We had the kennel tech.
the kennel technician.
Yes, we had like our part-time
Yeah, both of those.
weekend person, and the animal shelter attendant is the new position. Okay, you move to IT, which is on page 30. You see that Mr. Mills, the IT manager, is 90% in this department. The tech maintenance worker is 30% here. So I guess we'll find the rest of them somewhere.
CalLink has got the other 10%.
Oop, you're so good. Once we get to that individual department. Okay? All right, so now we're to the police department. So if you want to look at the individual people, the 5 officers are lumped together, but you can see the police chief, the deputy chief, and the captain, as well as the public safety administrative director, the custodian, and the crossing guard. Do we have 1 guard now or 2?
Just one.
Just the rev? Okay. Any questions on the police department? This includes 1 new police officer and 2 new police vehicles from the USDA grant. All right, on the page. And you see the loan on the building we took away, right? We just did away with that altogether. You see the vehicles there, though. Police communications, that will be your dispatchers, on page 33. 5 dispatchers and 5 full-time dispatchers and 1 part-time dispatcher, and their safety pay. Any questions on communications? Is the console in here? Is the communications budget?
It's on the capital.
Where it is?
Capital outlay.
Under the capital at the very bottom. Got it. Also see the victim advocate, which is part of the public safety administrator's duties.
And all of that is funded through VOCA, which is a grant, so everything that is put into this budget can be reimbursed back through
Cool.
the VOCA grant.
Yep.
Love it. Great service to our citizens. Okay, so now we're to the fire department. Again, here you can see the chief. And if you look down, I don't think it shows individually the deputy chief. They're just under fire officer, I would assume. I'm getting a yes back there. So you see the firefighter 1, the firefighter 2, the call-out pay as well as the call-out pay, the call pay and the call-out rate. The team leader versus the officers and any special duty which has been there in special events, which is a set pay for everybody when they're there. Anything in the fire department? You see their scuba gear on the next page, and I think their vehicle, part of their vehicle. All right, so now we're to streets and parks. Here you see a supervisor, 2 inmate supervisors, 2 park rangers, 3 maintenance workers, a heavy equipment operator. Are they all filled? We've got some vacancies there, right? 3 vacancies there. But those are the positions we have on the books that we're trying to fill. Know anybody who needs a job, send them over. Okay. Recreation and athletics. So our $7,000 is not here. Where is our $7,000?
Page before.
On the page before, I missed it.
Yeah, it's under streets and parks.
Oh, it's under streets and parks. Okay, so the recreation and athletics, what is that? How is that separate?
The only thing that shows up under there is $3,000 to the summer camp.
Okay, gotcha. All right, so streets and parks really pretty much has the whole rest of it. How much did you have to increase our budget because of fuel cost?
I do actually have summary page, but I think the answer is a lot.
A lot, yeah. I can see some of these numbers.
Yeah. Everybody kind of had to.
Even to run the equipment, even though we don't drive far, you just have to run it. Wow. See, the library, we are responsible for the utilities, the insurance, because we own the building, building maintenance, and I think you've done some maintenance over there lately that I've heard about. And we also pay for the cleaning, the person that cleans. I see that check come through every month. Then you see the special events. I know I heard at the last meeting Mr. Cox may have something that he wants to talk about here. No? Okay. So you mainly see the fireworks, which is the 4th of July. However, y'all don't know Miss Latricia is so good at this special event thing that when she makes a little bit of money, and she doesn't, we obviously can't make money because we're a city, but when she charges somebody that minimal amount to have a booth at the 4th of July, then she's got money to do another event. And she's really good at whatever is on the next event. She makes just a little bit, just enough to cover her expenses to do the next event. So she's really good at doing that, and I didn't really know that until I knew she was doing a lot, but I didn't realize where the money was coming from. And it's because she's generating it a little bit at a time. Because the booths out there are not very much. It's just enough to get the next event. And then the next event is just enough for the next event, to try to provide something for the city and the residents to do. And to keep it as free as we can. Music in the park on Friday, by the way. All right. Little plug, shameless plug. Anything on special events? Everybody sitting okay with the fireworks where they are? All right, then we also have non-departmental. The aid to private organizations is the Chamber of Commerce. You see a transfer to the CRA and the transfer to capital improvements, and that small contingency sitting there. Any questions? We did good. All right. See, we added things instead of taking them away. I knew that was going to be a problem. So, but he shook his head, right?
He did, I saw him.
But I asked Aaron to turn the camera off.
Thank you. All right, so Mr. Bloom, what do you think? What do we need to do? What would you suggest? What would you recommend?
Well, so far, I think we're fine. I think the logistics and the $4 is doable. We can put that in there.
Okay.
With the combination of a little bit additional revenue to support it, and a couple other things. I think we're fine.
Okay. I like that. All right. I know we haven't gone to the public a whole lot. I'll stop now and ask the public. I know it's not really on here, and it is a workshop, but I'm still going to ask you if you have anything you'd like to add about the budget. Any comments about any section? Mr. Pitt.
$400,000 for a communication system, is that for police and fire?
Correct.
Yes. Why, just out of curiosity, you've got ARPA funds?
That kid, I know it's not ARPA funds, I wish it was.
Yeah.
Part of it is ARPA funds, yes. And you'll explain why we have to have it.
Yes, our communication system, the consoles in there,
Are non-existent.
Yeah. The ones we had went out of service. How long ago? I mean,
You won't believe what they're doing.
20 years
You should
ago.
go look at it.
I mean,
terrible.
and everybody needs to understand that, yes, it is mainly for police and fire during day shift, but they also are there for our public works services at night and on weekends, and the airport and everybody else. I mean, it is a city, we call it police and fire communications 99% of the time, but really it's city communications.
So explain to them what happened at the county that we had to buy all this new stuff.
Yeah, and it's, regardless of what we wanted to do, we're being mandated to bring in these new systems. This is another awesome, unfounded mandate.
Unfunded
No, it's unfounded.
and unfunded.
Unfunded, excuse me.
Unfunded and unfounded.
So, just so, get everybody on the same page, it's for everybody, it's not just for police and fire.
And this allows us to be able to communicate with the county.
Yeah, because the county is going to a new system and our system cannot communicate with them. They're actually using handheld radios at the moment.
It's more than just the county. This is a.
The whole state,
this is a-
FHP, everybody.
Yes.
The whole state.
WWFWC,
Yeah.
everybody. And the county came up with the money to pay for the radios.
Yeah.
Correct.
The in-car and portables.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It gave in-car radios and,
Portables.
yeah, and, but the console inside is not compatible with any of that, so we have to buy a console to go with it.
The county is paying for their end of the radio system.
And ours.
And yours.
Most of
are
ours.
Right.
With the ARPA
But,
funds.
but we're having to use the ARPA funds to buy the console that goes with it, because they're not paying for the console.
How much is it on the console?
$400,000.
I thought there was $5,000 loan.
Yeah, right now that's with the loan.
That's with the loan.
That would require a loan.
Okay,
That is the cost for the console.
yeah.
The ARPA funds are not being used to do
Right.
that. ARPA fund that project.
But ARPA funds could be used to fund that $400,000, couldn't it? County's doing that. That's my question.
I don't know.
It's infrastructure.
Maybe they've got more money than we do.
They do.
Yeah, they are way more than we do. And that's probably how they're paying for the radios, for every city.
How much in ARPA funds did,
It's a little bit over 1.2.
1.2? How much has been burned up so far?
I wouldn't use the word burned up. I would say about $1 million of that has been assigned to other infrastructure.
We have about 200,000 left, is what I heard him say earlier. So all those things we talked about already is where it's gone.
The other question I had,
Okay, any other questions from the public?
the other question is, what is the total transfer from the utilities to the general fund, if you add up all the different utilities?
It's $1 million, 1.105, I believe is what it is. Yeah, 1.105.
Get a
He reads numbers.
Okay, anything, Mr. Fuller, I see you now, I'm sorry I missed you.
I apologize for not coming in a little late, but I was out of town. I wanted to just check, and I hope I'm not asking a question that's already been answered.
It's okay.
But I wanted to look and see what is proposed to be taken from reserves.
Most of it's on capital improvements page. Somebody remind me what page that is. It's near the front.
The total across all funds is $671,000. That includes the airport and the CRA fund, which are pretty independent. The general fund is only, I say only, but is $119,000. If you were looking just at the general fund.
And I'm asking basically, how much are we depleting reserves?
Have you got a packet? If you look on page 13, one of his slides actually tells you the amount that was estimated to be in reserves. And it'll tell you the minimum amount that we should have.
That's on the slide number 13, not page number 19. So it's page 7.
Yeah, at the very beginning. At the very, very beginning, there's these slides that look like this.
Okay.
So not really page 13, at the very
Page
beginning of
7.
the packet.
I think it's page 7. It is page 7.
There you go, right there. It'll have a number on each individual slide. It's number 13. And if you go back to number 11, it actually shows the reserves that are being used for matching. Like there's some on the police vehicles, there's some on the fire scuba gear, the squirt truck for the electric department, the utility fund, utility truck, which is a runaround truck. Also a portion out of the airport reserves, a little farther down, you'll see those 3 items for furniture, signage, and building improvements. And a little farther down still, reserves that are remaining in the CRA.
Okay, and the reason I asked that question is I'm want to look at how much are we depleting reserves and how long can we continue to deplete reserves before it becomes critical. And
That's what's on page 13. Slide 13. For example, it says that the utility fund, the minimum amount we should have is 1.7 million, and we currently have 2.5 to 3 million.
in general fund.
In the general fund, it says we need to have 1.1 million, and we are down to 750,000 because of the capital needs that we have this year.
I guess I'll make this comment at another time, but I think that we as a city have to be careful that we act like the city we are. We're going up in terms of expenditures, and we're going, but the population is not matching that increase. And secondly, we have to be careful because 44% of the city is below poverty level. And so just keep that in mind. Whatever you've done this year probably has to continue, has to stay. But in the future, we need to look at how we put money back in reserves rather than take money out of reserves. Because at some point, we got to stop spending. Because if we continue to do that, it's just like any household. If you spend out of your savings, eventually that savings is gone. And we're right now living on the responsible behavior of previous years. And at some point, we got to pay.
Was that an insult, Mr. Ford?
That's not an insult at all.
It sounded like it.
No, that's not an insult at all, but that's reality. Is that somehow the reserves were put there.
I would hope that we put them there.
Right, and I'm not saying, it's no reflection on this council at all. But in terms of spending, let's just make sure that we're spending responsibly, so that sometimes there are things that we want, and sometimes there are things that we need. And let's not confuse the two, because when you get to a household, the things that you want come before the money is all spent. And so just to begin to look at where we're headed and make sure that we are being extremely responsible rather than just saying, okay, this needs to be done, or this should be done, I'd like to see this, I'd like to see that. Let's just make sure that spending matches growth. And
I think we have a lot of growth at the moment. It's coming at us faster than you know. And that's why we have to do some of the things we have to do.
I see that there's promise growth.
Oh yeah, it's flying. Those 98 homes are going to be here by Christmas if we're not careful.
But just look at 98 homes compared to what we have already.
We hadn't had 98 homes in 15 years. Now they're all of a sudden going to show up in one quarter.
And that would be my point.
That's just, but we have to keep up with them as well.
Yeah.
with our police department, with our fire department, and I understand, and yes, I think this council, by going line by line and looking at everything, I think that is that is our responsibility. I think we're being responsible.
And I just say, let's look in the future, and it may not be now, but let's look in the future and see how we can replenish some of the reserves that are being spent.
Yep.
You can't do it tonight. That's not.
Well,
that's
I
not.
will say, and Mr. Bloom can back me up, as we go through the year, we do put things in there. And so next year when we come back, there are reserves that have replenished it so that we have them for next year. It may not be as much as we need each year, but the things that are over and above, that's where they end up in reserves.
Of course. And I'm just saying, and we'll be back before the council, but the thing that we want to take a look at is how do we make sure that we are spending appropriately for the growth, and particularly when we consider 44% of the citizens below poverty level. That's just my concern, and I have that concern because of what we actually see, and churches today, just like my church, can't afford to help people the way they helped them in the past. And yet we don't want to get to a point where our citizens are priced out of living in Williston, because we still have some citizens making $700 a month on Social Security, and yet everything is going up. The taxes on utilities are going up as well, and a little bit on property taxes. So let's just make sure that our citizens of lesser income can afford to live in Williston. Because if they can't live in Williston, they may not be able to live anywhere else.
Thank you. Anybody else from the public? Okay. I guess we're ready for adjournment. Anybody else got anything?
Can we move on for about another 30 minutes so Councilor Bullock will visit the
Get to his game 20 minutes early.
Perfect.
All right, I'm waiting for a motion if there's nothing else.
I move that we adjourn.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. We will adjourn at 6:40. What is it? That is 40. 6:40. Thank you.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah.